what we have planned today, you will be able to take back into your classrooms, okay? And if you ever have any questions, or if you don't feel like you want to interrupt, or if you're a little shy, you could just come over here, take a little sticky note off, write your question or comment or concern, and then stick it right back up here, and then I'll read them throughout the session or afterwards, and Tara and I will get back to you on that. Okay? But please feel free to interrupt me, raise your hand. I love comments, only good comments. All right. So like Tara said, I do work at with the Collier County Adult Education Department, and I love my schedule because it's flexible, because I do have 3 boys. So I was very lucky to get this position. I spend most of my mornings at Lorenzo Walker Technical College, helping the teachers, the part-time teachers, with their English, with their students, give them resources and activities to keep their classes lively and going. And then in the evening time, 3 days a week, that's when I go around to the different high schools where we have our programs, and I help those teachers and those students. Okay, so welcome. And then I just found out from Tara, I did not realize that all of you are volunteer. You do this out of your kindness of your heart. I think that is amazing, amazing. So thank you for that. All right, just like in your class, what I'm going to be doing today in the next hour, whatever I do, you can mimic and or use right away in your classroom. So as soon as your students get there, you want to get them going right away. So that's what we're going to do. And I always just call that our warm-up. Okay, we're going to be doing a little line dancing. Don't worry, it's nothing. You won't break a sweat. All right, what we're going to be doing, when I say go, we will start line dancing. First, I have just a quote. Wait, let me backtrack for a minute. What I do with you here is for your pleasure or your enjoyment, but you have to think about how you can relate this activity to your class, okay? So, I'm going to give you each a quote. You're just going to read it. And then when you get your quote, you're gonna come up here and you're gonna form 2 lines for line dancing, okay? You're gonna face your partner. And then you're going to introduce yourself. My name's Christine.
My name is Julie.
There you go. And what you're going to do is you're going to read your quote to your partner, and then you're going to say something about the quote. What does this mean to you? Something that you could think of, okay? And then when I say switch, you're just gonna move down the line. And you talk about introduce yourself, talk about your quote. When I say switch, going to move down the line. We're going to do line dancing. So this activity is called line dancing. Okay? There you go. There's your partner. So introduce yourself. Read your quote. But how can you see yourself using this strategy into your classroom? First, I'll start off by saying some of the positive and why this is such an effective teaching strategy. Actually, I'm going to ask you this, and then I'll get back to how you're going to relate it into your classroom. What were some of the really good things happening with you? Pretend these were your students.
Everybody was talking lots.
Yes, lots of talking. And what do your students need and want?
Talking.
Talking. Remember, just like your student who stayed a half hour, she just wanted to talk. right? This is a great, and everybody was participating, except I feel bad that I was one quote short, but you could have joined us. Oh, okay. So it was 100% engagement. Everybody was talking. Exactly. How could you use this into your class? I have lots of different ways, but I want to hear from you guys.
We're doing a presentation with our group, and there's 10 ladies in it, and the presentation is going to be a conversation, but it's with another person. It's not like a real dialogue where you both know your part.
Okay.
One of the people don't, it's a surprise. But for practice, we can do that same thing. We can do the dialogue, and the person who is supposed to be the surprise person could answer different things, which makes the person think. Yeah, needing to do the dialogue, or the one who's focused on the dialogue, will have to respond to a different answer from each student
That's
they
great.
talk to as they move down.
Good. So you could see yourself trying this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Yes.
I think I could use it at the very beginning of the year in particular, when everybody's still a little uncomfortable. And so I think I would try to find a question that wasn't too personal, but it was enough that they could talk to one another in whatever level of English they could, and therefore get to know each other
Like
better
an
in class.
icebreaker, getting to know your
Yeah.
activity to build community.
Yep.
And this activity has two main points. One, you brought it up. It builds community in your classroom. Everybody feels like they're getting to know each other. They're working with everybody, and it's a great speaking activity as well. What else?
I thought of that old party game where you put the sticker in your head and the other person
Has to guess what it is.
Yes,
Yes.
telling you, so
Guess
that
who?
different words to present new words to people.
I was thinking the same thing we have teachers who, the beginning of each unit, they have new vocabulary words, and they have vocabulary words on the cards and the definitions, like a flashcard, and then they just go down the line and they have to say it about 15 times. And so by the end of the 15 times, that student better know and understand that vocabulary word. Because you can't just hear it once, you have to hear it a whole bunch of times before it sticks in your brain. So I know a lot of teachers use new vocabulary with this way. One more share? Yes.
I just moved here 6 months ago, and I've been in Spokane, Washington, and after I had a career as a naval officer in the submarine service, learning how to properly handle a crew, because you need a special crew when you're out submerged for 2 months. And I taught English as a second language to primarily Russian and Northern Africa people that came in, all adults. And one of the main things that I learned was you have to begin with your students to learn about them and the things that makes them feel comfortable, and you respect them, and you have to handle the way you teach to each of them, because they're not all the same. So the main thing is to make them feel that they're okay, and you teach them as best as you can to make them happy.
That's one way on how you keep them all, you build that community with them. Exactly. And I'm hoping these different teaching strategies will do that as well. Yes?
Christine, if you could point out, so let's say I had a class of students who are the more beginning level proficiency, what sort of scaffolding would you provide so that they could participate in an activity like this?
In this activity? Well, number one, model. You remember how I didn't go all out because I knew you guys knew how to do this line dance here, but definitely model. When you want to scaffold for your students, you actually do it first. It's the I do part where you do. So I would introduce myself. I would literally read the quote to you. I would share my insight. So you would do the whole activity first, and then you would set them free and do the we do, where they do it themselves. And as the teacher, is your job just to sit down by your desk, or to make sure you're monitoring? You want to monitor, and that's another form of scaffolding. You always want to monitor your students.
What do you mean by monitor?
You remember, I was half doing it. No, I didn't sit down. I was just kind of listening in a little bit. So you're watching, you're listening, and if somebody was off task, then it would be the teacher's job to say, wait, that's not what we're doing. You're supposed to be reading the quote, not talking about, your party last night. And so that's the monitoring piece. You're just watching and listening. Did you have something?
I just was thinking about the folks who have very little English,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder if that might not be a good time to use some objects, and so that you can then use an object for part of it, and then use some word descriptors or nouns in return.
Yes. Yes.
And if I can point out, so Sandy, we did this activity with the moms in the Beginnings 201 section. It was their first day. They're all at various levels of proficiency. So I provided the dialogue first, right? So we know for them to be able to say, hi, how are you? What is your name? And they were just practicing that over and over and over again, going down the line.
Yes. Good. Yep. And then all the way up to the advanced level class, even Tara was mentioning, they could read different quotes, or if you're doing a unit on civics, give them each you side by side, mostly. If I'm not too familiar with side by side, but if there is a civics lesson in there, there is different monuments and a fact about them. You could do anything with minimal prep too. So that's always a good thing. All right, let's move on. Any questions? Add up to the parking lot. Just so I can gear the room here, just like you should get to know your students in your classroom, you want to try to figure out who your audience is, or in your classroom, who your students are, where they come from. Do they have, are they illiterate? Are they literate? Do they have family? How many kids do they have? Do they want to get a job? Are they here just for conversation? You want to get to know your students. So I just did something fun for you all. I want to see if you think as an instructor, an ESOL or family literacy instructor, do you think that you're a kitten? That means you're brand new to this and you're very timid, you're not too sure what you're doing just yet? Or do you think you're a lynx? You got this. Or do you think you're a lion? You've been doing teaching like your whole life. Then you're definitely the lion. So just by a quick show of hands, who thinks that they might be a kitten as an instructor? No kittens. All right. What about a lynx? We've got a couple of lynx. That's good. How about the lions? Been in teaching for a while. That's good. Okay. As I changed mine to a presenter. As presenter, I want to say I'm in between. I'm growing out of the kitten phase and going into the lynx phase. I just recently started going out doing professional developments. I usually stay within my little group of teachers. So this has been fun for me. I did one out at iTech, out at Immokalee, the tech college there, and at one of the conferences, I co-presented, which I love doing that. So bear with me here, because I'm definitely not the lion yet, like some of you. Okay, this is what we're going to be focusing on. WIIFM. Does anybody know what that is? What does that stand for? I'm
World
working your
War
brains.
II.
What did you say?
World War II.
No. Come on.
Yeah, film,
I know somebody will guess it. I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. You're really trying to figure this one out. I know it. WIIFN.
Information.
This is what we're focusing on. What is it? Maybe you're thinking too hard.
What's in it for me?
Woo! You got it! You got a prize!
Just
Whoa!
what I need.
There you go! Did everybody hear that? Say it out loud. What's your name?
Al Bennett,
Al. Al, can you say it out loud?
what's in it for me?
Oh,
What's in it for me?
very good.
This is what we're going to focus on today, because it's all about you. What's in it for me? Just like in your classroom, your students are there, and they want it to be for them. They don't want their time wasted. Whatever you teach them, it has to have that learning and teaching connection. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on what's in it for me. And you could even use that in your classrooms. We have teachers that's what they start out with. And the teachers let them know what they're going to be doing that day in class. Which starts out with, if you do not do so already, you should start out your class with a goal. The next slide is going to be your objective. You want to know what you're going to be doing for the next hour. Just like your students want to know what they're going to be taught from you. So you want to tell them a goal. This is what you're going to learn tonight from me. So today, let's see here. You're right up front. Would you be able to read our goal for us?
To learn and review effective teaching strategies and incorporate them into lesson plans to promote student success.
Exactly. I'm not too sure if you have to do lesson plans, but if you don't, it's more just for your knowledge, how you're going to incorporate these strategies into your classes. Good. Now our objectives. So today, we are going to be receiving training and support for teaching your classroom. Hopefully I'll be able to do that for you. Review and discuss various strategies to empower and actively engage the adult learner. So we'll have different strategies. The first one, the line dancing. You always want to try to incorporate what? Movements into your class. Okay? And then you're going to revisit, reflect, and relate activities to make it meaningful for the students. And that's how they're going to learn. Don't know your name here with the pink shirt. Just like what he said, he wants to get to know his students, so he can
Johnny.
make it. What is it?
Johnny.
Johnny. So he can make it meaningful for his students. You'll see on your table a green sheet. If you ever want to write notes, or if there's something is like, oh, I like that, please feel free to jot it down for what's in it for me. Hopefully you'll have a bunch. Let's see. Good? Okay, this is going to be our next activity. I call it turn and talk. It might be a Marzano strategy that we might have tweaked a little bit. This is what you could do in your classrooms. You want to do less teacher talk. A lot of teachers love to hear themselves talk. Talk. Lecture. And your students are like this glazed over. So you always want to incorporate partner work, group work. And this is a great way, this strategy, turn and talk, is a great way to have partner work. Okay, so we're just going to test out this strategy. What you're going to do with your partner when I say go, one of you will talk or you both actually, you both will talk about the positives in your program. What do you like? What are the resources that you use? What are some of your best practices that you could share with the person sitting next to you? Then, after you share all the good stuff, there might be some not so good stuff. Like, what are the barriers? What might be stopping you from doing these wonderful things? So you're going to talk about all the great things that you do, share some of your ideas with each other, and then also commiserate with each other. What are some of the barriers? After you do the turn and talk, you want to give them a time limit. I'll give you guys about 5 minutes. You can make it as long as you want in your classrooms. And then usually what we do, but because of time, I'm not going to do this one, then you would have one of you or both of you come up to the board, and then you're going to be writing a list. Each group would come up around the room and write down some of the positives and some of the barriers. We're not going to do that piece today. We're just going to do the turn and talk today. Okay? So take about 5 minutes. Talk about with your partner some of your best practices, some things that you would like to share, and also some of the barriers. And then be prepared to share out after about 5 minutes. Okay? All right, go. That's another great strategy. Sharing personal stories. Yes, they want to get to know you just as much as you want to get to know them. Once again, goes back to making it meaningful, building a community. For me. That's good. What's in it for me?
I've done that in my class, and I said,
Use turn and talk in your classroom.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is great, and I'm in a level it's level 2, so it's they're right at the beginning, not real beginners.
Right.
But when I let them kind of do things, and I try to do these partner things on their own, so there's 10 in the class, so there's gonna be 5 pairs, and I'm monitoring, and they flip into the Spanish. It's like I want it, I tell them ahead of time, it's all in English. Only they then they get stuck, and I start with Spanish, one answers a little Spanish.
That's okay as long as you keep that accountability. Then if they have to share out in English, or then they have to write their idea in English.
Yeah.
It's okay because that is at the beginning level. I feel like we would do that too if we're learning another language.
Yes.
So I feel like that is totally acceptable, but as long as when you keep them accountable, make sure they have to share it out in English. Or
That's good, yes.
I wouldn't stress over that.
Yeah.
You could monitor and then just join a group and say, wait, say that to me in English.
Yeah.
You know.
They always laugh at me.
We're trying.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, I think you're gonna like this one. This is one of my favorites. Have you ever heard of alpha boxes? Have you ever heard of alpha boxes? All right, well this you can honestly use with any topic. Okay, so once again, we're going to model just for fun here, but you're going to think about how you can use alpha boxes into your classroom. So everybody will get the information sheet. This tells you exactly how to do alpha boxes, but we're going to model it here for you. Once again, this is an effective teaching strategy because it's going to be working with individual, partners, and group work. No real movement in this unless you have to swivel around to your group. Okay, so what you have to do, or what we're going to do, we are going to use the topic of Florida. We have some people that have lived here for a while. We have some that are new to Florida. So on your topic, you're going to put Florida, okay? You're going to take 1 minute. You are not going to talk to your partner. You're not going to look at your partner's paper. You're just going to take 1 minute, and you are going to think of as many words that start with these letters pertaining to Florida. So I will give you a first one. A, alligator. So you're going to write the word alligator, or draw a quick sketch of an alligator. Okay, so you're gonna come up with as many words as you can think of in 1 minute by yourself.
Just an ABC.
On all the letters. Only about Florida. Florida is our topic, okay? I'm just gonna give you the rest of the directions now. Then the next minute, you're gonna turn and talk to your partner. You're gonna be like, oh, what did you get? I don't have anything for H. Oh, I have H. And then you're going to add more words to your list. One step further, you're going to now turn around and make a group of 4. You're going to compare your list. Oh, what do you have for D? Oh, I have that too. Wait, I didn't have this. And then you're going to talk and even add more words to your list. So I just gave you the whole big picture here. Now we'll just have fun and do it. All right.
So you could have more than one word in your in any column.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
like
even
a
a whole bunch
thing.
of
You want to
words.
get, okay, we're
Yeah.
going to turn this into a competition.
Who can get
The
the most?
group, when we get into groups, I only have 3, so we have to have groups of 3. We'll have groups of 3. Whichever group has the most words, we'll have to count them up, will win our resource book here with lots of good, that's another good strategy. Have friendly competitions in your class. Everybody loves chocolate. Go get some Hershey Kisses. And it's amazing what they will do for Hershey Kisses. Canoe. Hurricane. Happy hour.
That's a great one. I love it. I was like, we work way too late to participate. Divorcees was the best one. That was,
He cracks me up. He's one of my
so
favorites.
funny. I love him.
He's a straight shooter.
I
Who
love it.
has an idea of their top of the head where tomorrow's Saturday.
No happy hours.
Monday, when you come back into class, who could think of an idea of how you would use alpha boxes? Let me just backtrack a little bit. I always like to say that you could use alpha boxes. It says here in the directions to activate their prior knowledge. So sometimes this is a great activity when you just start a unit, just to see what your class knows already about it. But I also like to use it at the end of a unit to see how much they've learned.
Yeah, we just started working on clothes. Our unit is on clothes, so they could have talk about as many different clothes, kinds of clothes,
Yeah.
jewelry that
Yeah.
they can think of.
Perfect. And then, if you want a speaking practice, that's how you go over it. So this way they will be able to pronounce the words correctly. They can tons of things with it. Anybody else want to share how they would use alpha boxes?
We are talking about skills to get a job, and so.
Job skills, yeah. Yes.
I have 8 men. Some of them have very limited English skills, some of them are very good.
Okay.
But we, every week, will take the vowels.
Okay.
And I'll say, give me a vowel, and give me 7 words, and we give it that letter.
Oh, so you kind of do like an alpha boxes activity already. Good. Do they enjoy it?
Good idea.
They enjoy
Well, they tend to use the same words week after week.
All right. All right, now we're not gonna, let me check my time here. We're not gonna, no, oh, we're only 10 minutes. Okay, we're not gonna do this one. I'm just gonna share it with you. You could just jot it down real quick. It's really easy. It's called 3, 2, 1. This is the 3, 2, 1 strategy. After you teach them something or after you do a reading, maybe after your current events that you do with your class, any lesson that you do with them, they would record 3 things that they learned, 2 interesting things, 2 things that they liked or found interesting, and then 1 question that they might still have about it. And then I like to use this, or I like to share this with the teachers as an exit ticket. That's another effective strategy. So before they leave your class by the end of the night, they now have to hand in their exit ticket, their 3, 2, 1. So then I go, oh, okay, so, what's your name? so I was like, oh, that's what she learned, that's what she found interesting. Oh, she saw the question of this, so then the next day I'd be like, blah, 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 answering the question for her. So this is just, or you could do it in the middle of a class. After you do an activity, this could be like just a little evaluation and practice writing piece
Do
too.
the 2 interesting things have to be different than the 3 things they learned?
I would say yes, but it doesn't have, no rules, just right, so I take that from the author. I think we're almost done here, let me see. Oh, right. All right, this is gonna be your exit ticket. Out the door. I call it the tab sheet. Really, I want to see these, but I'm going to have you give them to me first, and I'm going to give them to Tara. She could look through them, and then really these are for you. Okay? So after you find out what this is, you're going to do it. That's my exit ticket, so I can see. I'm going to give it to Tara, and then Tara, if you don't mind,
Giving it back,
to
yeah.
them, because this will be a good reminder for you. Okay? So I'm going to hand this out to you, and you're just going to tell me and yourself what's in it for me. The most important thing that you learned this session, what action you would like to take on that idea, and then if there are any barriers that you see, and if there are barriers, that's where Tara and I can help you overcome those barriers. What are the results, rewards, and benefits that you will receive by doing this? Just think about that, and I'll give you, we have about 5 minutes left to fill that out. But before we do that, I don't see anything up in our parking lot here, but do you have any quick questions? Comments? Only good ones?